It's the planet's ultimate game.
It's Carvajal's cross. Rodrigo. Oh, extraordinary. They prayed for miracles, and miracles arrived. Real Madrid, the team of dreams.
Xhaka's corner shot. A game of the Arsenal bench. This is the lead.
Would the Celtic guess who's never went away?
It's 2-1. A phenomenon.
What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Final Third. It is me, Sam, aka FIFA Brit, and I'm joined by Mr. Brad Thomas. It's good to be back. You know, we're back making regular episodes. Wow. You know, well, I don't remember the last time that we put out, you know, back-to-back episodes, one week after the other. But hey, we just did it, so feeling good about it. How you doing, Brad?
Dude, I'm doing good. Europa is, I didn't really want to bet Europa. I asked X and I asked Discord, should we bet Europa? I think we made like 1 or 1.5 units in the first window. And then in the second window, we're sitting at like maybe a half unit profit. So anytime you could get money out of Europa, it's like, holy smokes, is huge.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I had a bit of the early slate was kind of rough. Made it back and then some with this guy on Rangers, Yilmaz.
Oh yeah,
absolute baller. This is an absolute baller. I mean, I'm kind of annoyed because I missed like the really good odds because DraftKings was drunk. If you guys aren't familiar with Rivdan Yilmaz, he plays right back for Rangers, but sometimes he plays on the wing. And if you guys don't know anything about me, that's like my favorite thing. That's crack to me. When a defender's playing on the wing, I'm just like, oh fuck yeah. And the thing is here's the thing. I'd say 8 times out of 10, it goes nowhere because they're a defender and they're not used to playing up there.
Yeah.
But this guy rips shots from right back. Like, even if he's playing a right back, this guy loves to rip shots. So I was like, all right, if he's playing left wing, works for me. He took 2 shots against Spurs the last time he was playing left wing in Europa and should have had a third, but Opta said, no, that back post header wasn't a shot. He was clearly passing that back post header that came off across. Oh, yeah, for sure, Opta, for sure. So I got him for basically even money. He was like minus 112 just to take a shot all game, and he was plus 450 to take 2 shots. He was at one point, DraftKings was smoking absolute crack and listed him at 800 to take 2 shots, and I tried to get it, but they locked the entire market. Basically, like, it went up. I went to put money in, and then it was gone. It was there for maybe a minute, and I was just like, God, that's just really annoying. But I'll take the 450 was still broken. Like, that was basically even money everywhere else. So I was like, yeah, that's still wrong. So I'll happily bet that. And I did, and he got 2 in the first 10 minutes. I would love it if he takes a third or even a fourth. But I think he's moved back into defense now. In case you guys can't tell, obviously this is going out on Friday morning, but we are enjoying this live because we record on Thursday afternoons in the middle of the slate because that's when we record. So you guys get all our live reactions, even though you know exactly how these games.
I think they actually enjoy it because they're like, "Yo, your live reaction was hilarious," but like it wasn't live to them, but.
Right, but you get to relive it through us. You don't get that. You don't get that anywhere else. I mean, you probably do, but we do it the best for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so that really helped. That's like a nice little 2 units in the pocket after burning a unit on Sailor Makers for Roma because Roma's formation said they were playing a 4-3-3 and he was playing at left wing, and then they rock up in their usual 3-5-2, and I'm just like, guys, what the fuck? Why? Don't say that. Don't say you're playing a 4-3-3 and then not do it. Which, like, fair enough. Tactics can change, but it was kind of rude. And they also played like shit. So
they did.
Fuck them. I don't know why I get excited about them. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. You kind of think, oh, maybe it'll be different this time, and then you inevitably get burned, and you're like, oh, wait. The Serie A teams can be really fucking annoying sometimes. That explains it. I deserve this.
On the road.
Yeah. I forget who they were playing, like AZ Alkmaar or someone like that.
Alkmaar.
Yeah. Fair enough. Good for them. They got the result. But yeah, it's been a really interesting week. Obviously, we had Champions League. You know, we're talking about Europa, but we had Champions League, and that was game week 7. So we are now coming up on the final week of the league phase. This is the first season that we've got the league phase. And honestly, I have really enjoyed it. I think that it's so exciting now, if you look at the table, how close everything is. I mean, like by this point in the typical, you know, group stage format from seasons past, the way it usually always was, these were done. And I said this at the beginning of the season, and I'm saying it again now. These games were wrapped up. You know, you could look at every single group in the traditional group stage format, and you could, I'd say to 80 or 90 degree, like percent degree accuracy, you could name the 2 teams that were going to make it out. Pretty much without fail, unless there was a group of death. But like that's the fact that we called it a group of death is just like, that was a rare thing. To have 3 out of 4 teams in a group be good was such a rare thing that we have a name for it. That's how predictable to a certain extent the original group stage format was. You know? And that was the only time you would ever see an upset. Like, you know what I mean? It would just be like it would be like You'd have an A-tier team. It would be like Madrid. Then you would have like a B-tier team, and it would be like, I don't know, some like Monaco, you know, someone from like the French league or someone like that, or you know, or maybe you get a Chelsea or someone like that if they qualify for the Champions League, and then you get to absolute fucking randoms that have scraped in by winning their godforsaken league in Europe. And you just know that they're here for the vibes, and every now and then you'll get an upset. Fair enough. You know, I just think about that brilliant Celtic Barcelona game from, you know, like at least 10 years ago. And if you look at this, where Celtic won 2-1, but if you look at the stats, it was like 6 shots and 20% possession to Barca's like 80% and 30 something shots with like 10 on target, and Celtic got away with it. Yeah, fair enough. Like that does happen, but it was a rarity.
Yeah.
Whereas this format, if you look at the league table, going into the last day, like, do some individual games maybe not feel as important as you're going through it? Yeah, probably not. But now, week 7 felt exciting. Like that PSG City game, obviously that's a massive game anyway between 2 huge teams. But you knew how much was at stake because City were in 25th, 1 spot out of it, and PSG were PSG were just out of it, and City were in 20th. And now City are out of it, having blown another 2-0 lead, which is absolutely hilarious. But like Leverkusen are in 8th place, which is, if you guys aren't familiar with the format, the top 8 get an automatic bye to the round of 16, and they will be seeded accordingly. So they will match up against the team that goes through the playoffs. And then the rest of the teams, 9 through 24, will get basically not randomly, but they will get seeded against each other in like a playoff. And interestingly enough, there wasn't much clarity about how that seeding would take place. I thought it was going to be just a straight up 9th place, 24th, 10th place, 23rd, but it's actually kind of tiered, so there is a little bit of a draw. The 8th and the 9th place teams are grouped together, and the 23rd and 24th place teams are grouped together, and those teams will be randomly placed against each other. So 8th might play 23rd or 24th. 9th might play 23rd or 24th. So there's still going to be a draw, but that everyone's grouped by 2, and then obviously it goes down and so forth progressively as you get towards the middle of that section. So there is still going to be a draw. There's still a bit of randomness to it, which I think is good because there's an excitement about the draw. And while, true seeding is fair, it takes some of the excitement away from the fact that you kind of know who you're going to play, even though obviously this group stage will change. The placements of where teams will change dramatically throughout this final week. Leverkusen are in 8th place on 13 points, and the bottom of the teams that qualify 24th, which is Stuttgart, they're on 10 points. There's a 3-point difference between automatic qualification and just about being in. So there's going to be a ton of movement on this final day, and of course all the games get played at the same time. So it's going to be incredibly chaotic. Handicapping it is going to be absurd.
Like when the lineups come out, we're going to be like mad dash. It's going to feel like Black Friday, and they just open the doors and we just
Yeah, I'm just gonna check every single, formation. So really, I'm gonna have to do a ton of prep work and just be like, okay, these are my notes for every single game. And if so and so is playing, I like them. Blah blah blah. You're gonna have to go through every single game. I mean, it's gonna be crazy, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Dude, like, who would have thought like we would have had like I'll be honest, I was skeptical, right? Like at first. Now I'm like, dude, this is amazing.
I'm really looking forward to it. I was very much on board. I feel like people hadn't quite understood how the format was going to work, and I was just like, guys, I'm not one to suck UEFA's dick here, but they made a really nice, helpful video about how it works.
Yeah,
just watch the video. It's super easy. So I've been really looking forward to it. I thought the group stage format, the original one, was just getting a little repetitive and boring and predictable, really, at the end of the day it was. And it really didn't, Now, I enjoyed it because there was tons of value on, like, the players that would do really well for the more obscure teams. But you still get that in this format. And you get more bad teams playing each other. And those games I really like. I mean, like, I'm kind of addicted to those games because they're either going to be absolute dog shit or they're going to be brilliant and electric, and you just like, it's so great kind of like digging into those sort of like deeper play, looking into the deeper leagues and stuff like that, finding out who's good, finding out who rips shots. I really enjoy that kind of stuff.
I like those grimy matches with the smaller teams because, like, me, I'm freaking basement grinder, bro, with those little small leagues, and I feel like sometimes like, those are the lines where the books are like, and it's just be superstition, but those are the lines where the books aren't really paying that much attention to, they're just
because they just don't know as much. The information is harder to obtain. It's pretty easy to price, Man City player props, for example, but can you really probably price, Slovan Bratislava? No, probably not. That's a little bit more difficult. So when you hang guys like, who's there forward? I forget. It's like Bartesian or something like that. I'm gonna absolutely butcher that name. And they have a guy called Strelic. Both those guys but if they're playing a decent team, they get listed at like 10-1 just to score a goal. Or it's beautiful. Like, or for example, Sturm Graz, they're like a tagging mid and their striker on Bet Rivers or Ballybet. You could parlay them to take one shot each, and it was plus 155 just to take a shot each.
Dude, it's
fun.
Funny too,
it's fun
because I think those are like the games where you want, like, oh, this freaking random dude who starts like half the matches is in, that's like my favorite in those smaller leagues.
Oh yeah,
like, they definitely don't know. And what's also nice about it, like, even if the books have like a decent price, it's not like they're going to get crushed by the public just going out there and betting it unless it goes in like one of the big discords.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also great because there's just like so much variance across the books too.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're dealing with like, I don't know, Garnacho, for example, or Diallo for Man U, who are playing right now, those lines are going to be pretty even standard across the board, give or take. I mean, FanDuel might be slightly worse because they typically are usually kind of worse, but like DraftKings, Rivers, ESPN, they're all going to be kind of similar. Whereas you get to the more obscure players, you get much more variance. Like, for example, when Zinchenko was starting more for Arsenal, a year or two ago when we had to, I do not respect his ability to defend. And so I would take whoever played right wing against Zinchenko matching up on our left-hand side for shots, goals, assists, you name it. Because I was like, they will just go at him and he will not be able to defend. So Zinchenko gets the start this week in Champions League because, no surprises, we're suffering an injury crisis. And the right winger for who we're playing, Dynamo Zagreb, his first name was Luka. I forget his last name. But he was playing right wing across basically every book. He was about plus 150 to plus maybe 180, 190 to take two shots.
Yeah.
On ESPN, it was even money to take one shot and plus 500 to take two shots. I was just like, yep, fuck yes. I am absolutely here for that. Now, I should have probably just played one shot for maybe like half a unit, but I was like, I'll I'll be a little risky, and I played 2 shots for 0.2 of a unit. And of course, he takes 1 shot in the first half and then doesn't shoot again. So that's on me. But just finding those really fun shot lines that's the joy. That's the joy in betting this for me. You know, ever since they took away first half shots, I had to get my kicks from somewhere else.
Well, you know, it's funny too, like with the shot props is like Champions League, I'm so happy. Europa League, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to bet shot props so much. And then I see on social media, I'm like, oh, there goes Sam firing off some Europa League shot props.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, thank God Yilmaz got 2 shots early on. That made me nice and happy. If he gets another one, that'd be great. If not, I'll happily take the 2 units and call it a day. I think that was my only play for the 3 o'clock slate of Europa. It's like, nothing else is interesting me. I thought about Hugo Ekitike, or however you say his name, for Frankfurt.
I took him to score a goal.
Yeah, it was like plus 105, at least when I like briefly looked, and I was like, that's not, I was like, I'm not sure about it. And then of course he scored in the second half. So fair enough.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that. But I thought we should revisit, the audience questions that we had for last week. We were going to do them at the end of last week's episode. We didn't get to them. We kind of ran over on time. Amazing. We never do that. We famously never do that.
Never happens with us.
Yeah, it never happened. We're always really on time. But I was like, rather than put it at the end of this week's episode, let's do it at the beginning. And I say at the beginning, we are already 15 minutes in. But we're all talking about very valid and relevant stuff.
And fun
but
stuff.
there were a couple of questions that we got from the Discord, from Twitter, that I thought were really interesting. The one that I mentioned last week that I said we should definitely talk about came from a user called BWAP. And the question was, what signings would you guys make for your club? Now, we're in the last week of the January transfer window, so that this feels particularly relevant now. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you guys don't know, I'm an Arsenal fan. Brad is a Juventus fan. Brad, why don't you go first? Because I've been yammering away for a fair bit now, I feel like.
Yeah.
So let's hear how would you improve Juventus? You've got a week left in the transfer window, and let's try and keep it vaguely realistic here. Like, there's money you might get for Cambiaso, there's money you might get for Douglas Luiz, both of them have been linked with Man City. So, you could do, assuming those guys leave, assuming they stay, what do you think you guys need?
Man, let's say we get rid of Douglas Luiz. We got a little bit of money. But you know what's sad? Like, we need attacking help. And I was like going through like the list of like who would become available to us, who could create a spark, who we could fit just right in. I'd probably go with Marcus Rashford, because he's out of favor, won't be too expensive. He can score goals, but we don't need him to be the primary goal scorer. He can provide a spark to the attack. Like, what we're doing now is not working. Like, when we ran Nico Gonzalez in the false 9, I was like, what the living hell are we doing? Like, there's no way this is going to work, right? Did it work? No, we didn't score a single goal. I know I've seen Ronald Araujo being floated around, and obviously I would love that signing, but I don't know if that helps our weaknesses. We have the best defensive record in European football. Yeah. Is signing a center back going to help us there? No, we need.
And he also just renewed his contract with Barcelona anyway.
Yeah, we need attacking help, and I thought Rashford was the best one. Someone who's out of favor, someone who can make an impact on a different team.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that'd be a pretty big risk, but I also
huge risk.
Yeah, that's a big risk, but also I'm more inclined. I like Rashford. I feel that he's sort of been harshly treated, but he's also been given chances. He had a fresh start under Amorim. Amorim started him as the 9 in his first game, and he scored a minute or two into that first game.
In back-to-back games too.
Yeah, I thought that we had a new era of Marcus Rashford at Man U, and then it really just kind of went to shit again. But I'm more, I was more inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt when Ten Hag was in charge, because I really didn't like Ten Hag's man management style. The way he handled Sancho, I thought, was absolutely terrible. The way he handled Rashford wasn't brilliant either. But but then again, Sancho didn't really do anything wrong, whereas Rashford just goes out to the clubs every now and then, and it's just hey, Rashford, maybe don't go out to the clubs every now and then.
Rashford wants to be a proper footballer. Live the life of the guy who.
Yeah,
goes
he's
out,
trying to live. He's trying to live in a George Best world. It's just like, I'm sorry, it
Yeah.
doesn't work anymore. We don't do that shit around here anymore.
It's idiot. No, that was a tough question. I was like thinking about it, and what's funny is like normally I have a laundry list of guys I'm waiting or wanting to sign, and this year I was like, man, it feels like the pickings are slim.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about Vlahovic? Because I keep seeing Arsenal fans. I mean, to be fair, Arsenal fans have been trying to link Vlahovic to Arsenal since before he picked Juventus over us. Very famously snubbed us to go to Juventus, and some people, for some reason, still are just like begging him to come to Arsenal. It's just like, I'm sorry, guys, he's on like what, 350 grand a week or something absurd like that, making ridiculous money, and he's getting benched by players at Juventus that don't even play striker naturally.
It makes zero sense. I think he's a quality striker, right? Good finisher.
Yeah, I think he's.
I just don't understand why.
I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think he's our best chance to score goals, and
probably, yeah.
I don't want to get rid of him unless we have a competent replacement. And Muani's not the same level of player, same kind of player as Vlahovic. You're not going to just, we're going to slot in Muani and life's going to be just dandy. We already struggle to score,
Yeah, I am really interested to see how Kolo Muani does because, he's still very young. He's a lot younger than I thought he was. Obviously, his entire career trajectory of life could have changed if he scored that chance in the World Cup final. It could be Kolo Muani World Cup winner for France, but instead he's the player. Well, he is that's the thing. He is a €100 million player. PSG signed him for like 90. But that's the thing. They still paid an absurd amount of money for him, and now it just hasn't worked out for him.
I also don't think PSG know what they want either. They got Goncalo Ramos, and that I don't think that marriage is working out all that well either.
It's been not horrific. I think
when he's healthy.
I guess him being healthy plays a big part. But PSG have kind of. I like their shift because obviously I think in the last decade or so. They were very much, we have loads of money. We're the new kids on the block. Let's spend it. Let's get the best in the world. They brought in Messi. They brought in Neymar. Obviously, they signed Mbappe. They were basically that was the Brooklyn Nets lineup, and they had Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and who else was on the Nets? I'm missing
Kyrie,
one.
Kevin Durant, and James.
There was a third, and James Harden. That was it. I was like, they put up a big load of money, and it's just like you need to realize that just signing superstars does not always work because those superstars come with egos. So that is a difficult, it's a very difficult thing to balance, which is why, when everyone sort of shits or makes fun of the Madrid, Galacticos policy, just okay, yeah, you can throw money at things, but making it work does not necessarily, is not a guarantee whatsoever. So you can't just do that. So, but I like now they've kind of changed. They haven't won the Champions League, which is that is the goal. They need to win the Champions League because everything else is a layup. The league is a layup. The French Cup is a layup. You should be expected to win that. That should be a given. If you don't, you have failed. But the Champions League is still the thing that they're chasing, and they haven't got it yet. But now they've shifted their policy towards let's sign, rather than go for big name players, they've kind of been like, okay, let's sign the best young French talent and develop those. So now they've got Barcola. They've got this young guy, Desiree Doué, who I really love. I think he's really talented. Obviously, they signed Muani, who was in his early 20s and a big name striker. So I like that they're developing French talent, but then they also just went out and bought Kuvica from Napoli for 70 million. Okay, cool. How's that going to work with Barcola? How's that going to work with Dembele? Okay, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
It feels like taking advantage of a market opportunity, which, fair enough. I don't blame them for doing that, but it feels like they went for the player and didn't really think about how that's going to work. But hey, we'll see. Let's talk Arsenal signings.
Ooh, who you want?
Yeah. So, and I do my best to be realistic here because so many Arsenal fans are just like, oh, we need to sign a striker. We need Osimhen. We need Gyökeres. even Sesko, these are all guys that are massive players for their, clubs.
Yeah.
And they are probably not leaving in January. Just throwing that out there. It takes a lot to sign a big name player in January. You either have to overpay or you need to get someone that it plays for a team that has nothing left to play for.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just
you are spot on about the overpay part. Like that's like number one. Like the only reason like Marmoush is out of Frankfurt is because they got an offer they couldn't refuse, right? Like you can't turn that money down, especially when you could just figure you could keep buying players, right? Keep building your team, keep getting better. That's a really good point.
Yeah, they signed, City, City had Marmoush valuated at 50 million and Frankfurt said, no, we want 70 or 80. And then City said, fine. All right, yeah, sure. There was no negotiation there. They were just like, worth a go, guys, worth a go. But it's just like, we know you are Man City and you have money. So we will demand the money that we think it's worth. And then they immediately went out and signed Wahi from the French league.
Yeah.
He's a decent striker. And they signed him for 25 million? Brilliant. Now they've got 50 million in the bank and a striker who can immediately play alongside Hugo up front. Brilliant. Now they've replaced Marmoush. They've offloaded him, and they've still got 50 million in the bank. That's how you do January January transfer window business as a seller. Now the problem is for Arsenal, people. I don't know if they know that we have money.
Yeah,
but you're still a big name, so it's going to take some convincing to convince the club. Now the number one player realistically that could leave that we are currently linked to is Matheus Cunha at Wolves.
Yeah.
I would really like that. I was like at the beginning of the window, I was like, I would go for Mbuemo if we can. Because we really need someone that can play as a striker or as a winger. Because we're not going to sign both this window. I really don't think that. Unless the Kroenkes are giving us a bunch of money that I don't know about. And Arteta is feeling, particularly spicy about this window. Now, maybe the injury to Gabriel Jesus has changed that. So, we'll see. But as far as I'm aware, if anyone, we are probably going to sign one attacker. I mean, there's always the possibility that we recall Fabio Vieira from his loan at Porto.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Matheus Cunha is apparently available for around 55 million. I personally don't see Wolves selling their best player while they're in the middle of a relegation battle.
No.
But if we could get him
their
for
best player
around that
without
price,
a replacement waiting,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would get a replacement wrapped up pretty quickly. I mean, Marmoush just got sold. That's been taking place over the course of a week. But Marmoush just got sold, and the Wahi signing for Frankfurt took, I think, 2 days. Yeah. It was very quick. And that was wrapped up really quickly. So fair enough. I think Wolves could probably go out and find someone for about that money if they had to bring someone in, or they get someone on loan. You know what I mean? They could do it. But if we could get Cunha, who could play on the left wing or he can play at striker, that would be a pretty decent reinforcement. In the long term, I would love Gyökeres to play striker. If we can't get him, then I would get Sesko. Yeah, I think because Gyökeres is a very good player, but I thought it would be very hard to get him away from Sporting, but then Amorim left and they've looked like absolute shit since then. So now I think it would be easier. I don't think they won't sell him in January because they're in the Champions League, so there's no reason to sell him. No amount of money is worth the potential run that you could make, even though I don't see them going that far. That's a summer signing. If we can get him for 70 or 80, I'd be happy with that. And then my dream left wing is Lookman from Atalanta. Now he's not going in January because Atalanta is still very much trying to compete in the Serie A, and they're also looking pretty good in Europe as well. But I would love Lookman because we just need someone that can strike the ball properly. Like we have so many confidence-based attackers. Havertz, I love Havertz. I have a soft spot for him. He's versatile. He can play as a striker. He can play as a center mid. He's incredibly confidence-based. He did not have any confidence when he signed for us. We very famously gave him the pity penalty, which he scored, and they kind of started that whole thing.
Yeah.
Then he started playing well. He was arguably our best player towards the end of last season. People forget that he was one game away from breaking the record for consecutive games at home for Arsenal with a goal. He was one game away from breaking that record. He went for like, I want to say 10, maybe 12 games with a goal at home. He was playing really, really well towards the end of last season and the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
Then he went, for some reason, I don't know what happened. He really lost his confidence. He started missing very good chances. But he's got 2 goals in the last 2 games. Now I think he's getting back up there. Do we still need a striker? Yes, because you can't ride confidence forever. Now, it was helpful when we had Jesus, when Havertz was losing his confidence. Jesus, out of nowhere, having not scored a goal for a year, scored 5 goals in 2 games against Crystal Palace in the league and the cup.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And that game where he scored a hat-trick, each goal, his finishing looked more and more confident. He was just striking it. It was nicely in the corner. You know, he was playing really well. But we can't you can't rely on confidence. You need guys that don't get swayed by that and are continuously, you know, trying to take chances. Martinelli's very confidence-based. You know, Saka is not. Saka is a guy that will, even if he's, you know, I mean, he doesn't not play well. He plays very well. Odegaard's been kind of shifty recently. He's creating chances really well, but he's been missing some very good chances in the box. Thank God he scored. You know, I mean, it was the easiest goal you could possibly score, but he scored. So that's got to go a long way, hopefully, for him. So we need someone that can just rip shots and strike the ball well and is not going to be particularly swayed. I just want them to keep generating good chances. Lookman's one of those guys that can create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Barcola also at PSG now that you know Special K has gone there. I'm hoping Barcola's available in the summer. That would be a great signing. I'm not sold on Nico Williams. I think Nico Williams is a Spanish Martinelli. I don't think he offers us anything more than what we have, especially at the money that he's, you know, that's a 70, 80, 90 million signing for a guy that wants to make, is on 250 and wants to make 300 a week. I'm not paying him that. I'm just not paying him that.
Yeah, agreed.
So a striker would be great. So Gyökeres or Sesko, if you want to go for a younger one. A left wing would be ideal. If we can get Cunha this window, that'd be great. He's a good sort of stopgap. Ideally, Lookman, Barcola, someone like that. And then I think we really need a centre mid that can cover for Odegaard when Odegaard is either resting or he's out hurt. Because we sold Smith Rowe and we loaned out Fabio Vieira, and we did not properly bring in someone like that could play when Odegaard isn't there. Yes, we have Ethan Nwaneri, who I love. He can play attacking mid on the right-hand side, or he can play at right wing. That's brilliant. That covers when Saka or Odegaard is out, having Nwaneri to play there. Love that. That's a guy we desperately need to play there. But we also need someone else. Someone who can ideally create chances and shoot well. That was someone I was thinking, and also is fine not playing every minute of every game. That's when I was like, okay, I would love a guy like Malik Tillman, the American that plays for PSV, or Enzo Mio or Milo. He's French, so I'm not exactly sure how to say that. I think it's Milo. He's not Spanish, so I guess it's not a Yo. But Enzo Milo for Stuttgart. Also very solid centre mid, can create chances and score as well. Someone like that I think we could probably pry away for, 30 million or so, money that's going to be good for a team like that. But, and someone that's coming in and isn't expecting to play every single game. If we could get Tillman or Milo, I would love a guy like that, because if Odegaard's not playing, they would slot in so nicely. That's what I want for Arsenal. What happens is a different matter entirely.
You're going to be like, who the fuck was going after this guy?
Yeah. I mean, we're linked to Zubamendi, who's a defensive mid as a summer move. We're looking to pay his release clause of 60 million. Everyone got up in arms about that. They're like, oh my God, we need an attacker, and it's just like, yeah, we do. You're right. But Jorginho and Partey are going to be out of contract this summer. And I don't see either of them staying. I wouldn't mind if Jorginho stuck around. I would love Partey out of my club as of like 2 years ago, but he's still here. So it is what it is. But both those players are going to be gone, and they've been playing fairly crucial roles for us. So Zubimendi for 60 million, sure. He's one of the best, he's a really solid defensive mid, so I'd be fine getting him, but we need attackers. We'll see.
We'll see.
For now, for January, give me Mateus Cunha, and I think we'll make do.
Yeah. I mean, that would just be like home run signing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be great. I'm not sure if Wolves let him go, but we will see. We also had one question. It was sort of two different questions from the same person. It came from Mr. Analytics. One, he asked us about how we feel about the issues with VAR referees and poor officiating. I think we've covered that fairly significantly over the course of this podcast. I don't need to comment. I don't need to get started on that anymore.
I want to say one thing. I was really upset about that VAR in what game was that? In Leipzig, where it was a total judgment call, but they still go to the monitor. I was like, that's literally defeats the purpose of the rule. Like the rule is like, if they made a clear and obvious error, you go to the monitor. Not, I think, what the hell? That pissed me off.
Yeah,
it didn't even impact the game really, or my bets, but it was just like, come on.
Yeah, no, I agree. VAR was meant to be used for clear and obvious errors, and it feels like now it's just a different referee being like, hey, I think this instead.
Yeah.
And then the referee goes and has a look, and then their mind gets changed because they've got a VAR team in their head trying to convince them of what they are seeing. And they're only showing angles of things that support what they are seeing.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. But we don't have time to get into that. The second part of that question was talking about the Champions League and what we thought about any futures or like who's going to win it, top scorer, stuff like that. I haven't really looked at the top scorer market, but I'm just going to echo what I said at the beginning of the season. Inter Milan still feels incredibly disrespectful. They were available for plus 2,000 or so before the season even kicked off. It's still available at plus 1,600. They're in the top 8. They're playing, I believe they play Monaco, but they're playing at home, so they should be fine in that game. They should stay in the top 8. That gets them to the round of 16. I see teams like Bayern, Real Madrid, who, to be fair, do tends to turn up when the going gets tough in the Champions League. Yeah. But they're getting priced at plus 600, plus 700, plus 800, and they're in like 15th, 16th place, and definitely not playing their best football right now. Inter Milan are in the top 8, are in a good position to secure that bye to the round of 16, which saves you playing 2 games because the playoff is a 2-leg thing. And you can get them at plus 1,600. It's basically 1,400 across the board. I haven't seen worse than that. And then I believe ESPN and one other book has them at 1,600. I really think it's getting to the B time where I lock that in. That just feels like the best value on the board to me.
Listen, I bought them pre-tournament, so.
Yeah, fair enough. I said I was going to, and then I didn't. Thought I would regret not doing it, but the price has not shifted that significantly, and they looked very good. Yeah. So I think it's now time for me to buy in. Outside of that, I really don't think there's much you can do. Your chalkier picks like Liverpool and Barca, who obviously could win it, are available at like plus 300, plus 400. That's not really money I want to tie up in future. Maybe Liverpool, just because they look so dominant. I would not buy Barcelona for that price. They look so shaky now.
So shaky.
Very
literally
shaky.
Like, holy smokes.
Yeah, good for them. They came back and won a brilliant game against Benfica. You still conceded 4 goals, guys. That's not a recipe for success. So, hey, we'll see. We will see. But I think Inter is the best value on the board there.
Yep.
Anyway, that's the intro to the podcast, or I guess part 1. A 40-minute intro. Let's talk about this week's games. It's time to break down some matches. And as always, we will start in the Premier League. We've got some really interesting games going on. This is a game, this first game, and thank God I say the first game, but there's no early morning kickoff, which is beautiful.
God.
All the games start at 10 o'clock on the Eastern Coast, which works for me just fine. But the first game I want to talk about is hilarious because you could have said, you could have told me about this fixture at the beginning of the season, and I'd be like, all right, sick. What a fun mid-table clash that's going to be. But now it turns out it's a really lit game that's getting everyone very excited. I am, of course, talking about Bournemouth against Nottingham Forest. This is a really fun game.
Very.
Both of these teams are really interesting. And I'm still not sure if either team is really good or just kind of riding their luck. Now, don't get me wrong. I like both of these teams. But, I've seen Bournemouth are doing this thing where like they're not delivering consistent results against teams around their own level.
Yeah.
But they do really well against City. They did really well against Arsenal, although to be fair, Arsenal had a bullshit red card, so I don't know if I count that. But they played really well. They've done really well against the big teams. Forest, on the other hand, are getting the job done against everyone in the league. But then when they play the kind of quote-unquote better teams, they're getting kind of exposed. Arsenal handled them easily. I think it was 3-0 or something like that. Liverpool obviously only drew, but they absolutely dominated them. And it really just took Cells playing and absolutely turning into Neo from the Matrix to keep them in that.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting one. Obviously, Forest are the ones making all the headlines. They are in the top 4. Everyone's saying there's a chance they're going to get into the Champions League. We'll see. It'd be great if they got it into Europe. I would love that. And now they play each other. A draw, I'd be fine with a draw. Give me a nice high-scoring draw. Give me a nice 2-2. I could see that. But hey, we'll see. I mean, it's fascinating, You got to give some credit to Iraola because obviously everyone's like saying, oh, Ange isn't doing that well at Spurs because half his team is out. Look at the injury list that Bournemouth have. I mean, both of their starting strikers are out. They're missing Danilo, one of their most, one of their strongest defensive mids. They've got so many guys who are out, but they've got so many decent squad players. It's very, they're a fun team to watch. Yeah. And I guess so Forest. But I just don't think Forest's run of form is sustainable. But again, we've said that before, and then they just keep doing it.
We said it and they keep freaking winning. I took double chance. I took double chance for Forest.
Okay.
Just in case it's a draw or for a squeak one. I just don't think Bournemouth are gonna win this game with the bulk of the possession, right? Like they're the type of team that needs to hit you on the break, on the counter. Also, the goals that they've been scoring have been impressive, number one, but that's not sustainable. Scoring these golazos with Justin Kluivert freaking ripping them from distance, not sustainable.
Yeah, fair enough. But I also don't think that Forest's counterattacks and everyone behind the ball and then try and break and cross into Chris Wood or pray that Morgan Gibbs-White can strike it from 25, 30 yards out is particularly sustainable either. But it keeps working.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think both teams to score over 2.5 is a fun looking bet for this one. Just because so many of these guys have so many different ways that they can score. And also neither of them, well, I say neither of them. Forest can sit back if they have to defend a lead. Bournemouth, not so much.
No,
we've talked about that before. They are much better at chasing games than they are at holding leads. So, but I do think that there's enough potential chaos in this game that we'll get an early goal and then the situation will change for both teams so quickly that they kind of can't sit back, whether they choose to or they just are enabled to do so ability-wise. I think we see goals in this one.
Yep.
I think it's a potential fun one for shots, potential fun one for goals and assists, lottos. Responsible, of course. We're talking tiny little sprinkles, but there's a Wood goal, Gibbs White assist. Maybe an Elanga involvement. He's been playing really well for Bournemouth. Kluivert obviously take pens. That's helpful, but I love if Dango starts, Utara start. If Utara starts on the wing, Utara shots. I love him. Semenyo, obviously we like him as well. The problem is both of these teams almost have too many guys that are good at contributing to a goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you take Chris Wood for a goal and then he knocks it down and, Elanga scores a rebound. You're like, all right, cool, I guess. You take Gibbs White for an assist because he's, the attacking mid and creates a ton of chances every game. And then he just rips one from 30 yards out and gets it past Onana. Oh, whoops. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I know, if only there was a market where you could bet on someone to score or assist. What a great idea. What a great idea. I should listen to myself when I talk about that. But yeah, I see goals in this game. I think it would be really fun. Let's talk about Brighton against Everton. I don't want to talk about it for too long, but I do want to point out the fact that you could get Brighton to win this game at home at like minus 145.
Yeah, I saw that.
That is like wild to me. Like, don't get me wrong. David Moyes is playing. He's managing Everton. He's got the new manager bounce, but it was Spurs. And I love that we're getting to the point where you can say beating Spurs doesn't mean that much.
Yep.
The media in England are referring to the media in England are referring to Spurs as Dr. Tottenham because you play them and all your problems get fixed. And I love that so much.
That's funny.
It is hilarious. It's just like, Everton haven't won a game in so long. Brilliant. They're playing Spurs. And bang, would you look at that? 3-2 win. And they were winning 3-0 in the first half. Incredible, incredible stuff. This, I think, is a harder game. They're playing on the road. They're playing Brighton. Brighton have been really weird. Brighton are turning into the team that Newcastle was in the first half of the season, where you think they should be good and they could score loads of goals. And sometimes they just look completely and utterly useless. But they're playing at home. They're playing against Everton. This has to be 3 points, in my opinion.
Has to be. And I mean, they've been playing better.
Yeah.
So, they had that really good start to the season, and then their form kind of dipped. But now it feels like they're getting better. They just picked up 3 against United,
Yeah, but that's Man U, How hard is that? But you can also, even if you don't think that Brighton are able to win the game outright, I also think the over is very much in play. You can get over 2.5 at, I'm just looking at FanDuel here, but minus 121. If you think that Brighton grabbed 2 and Everton managed to get 1, brilliant. That's 3 goals right there. You think Brighton run it up and score 3? Brilliant. There you go. I don't see either team sitting back. Well, I could see Everton sitting back. I don't think they would be able to do it very effectively because Brighton at home are going to rip shots at you. They've got so many guys that can shoot. Obviously Ruta can shoot. Mitoma's more of a creator, but he can still come at you. If Welbeck is healthy, I mean, God knows what Welbeck's doing. João Pedro, always a threat. They got so many guys that can provide attack from somewhere. I don't think sitting back against them, especially in their own stadium, is going to go that well or last that long.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you could see 3 goals in this game, and minus 121, and I don't even know if that's the best price available right now. It feels really nice.
Yeah, I think I was seeing minus 125. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Let's talk about the big game, arguably the biggest game of the weekend. It's the later game on Saturday. This is Man City against Chelsea. This is fascinating because neither of these teams are playing brilliantly right now.
Neither of them are. And I can't, but listen, dude. I think they keep freaking sucking me in further and further to saying, at what point do we just have to keep betting Manchester City? Because there was a point when they were like minus 130 against someone. I go, we're getting Manchester City at minus 130. We have to bet it. And then it goes, we're getting Manchester City at minus 110. We have to bet it. We're getting Manchester City at plus 105 at home. We have to bet it. Oh my God, they keep sucking me in. I'm not betting this damn game. I'm not betting.
Man City money line at almost even money. Probably is even money at certain books. I'm looking at minus 105. I'm sure it's better.
105 is what I'm looking at.
Crazy. At home in the Premier League. I mean, these are prices that even a couple of months ago we'd have thought were completely out of the question. Just, you see that and it's an automatic hammer. But, this is crazy. Chelsea finally get a win, having gone, 5 games or something without a win in the Premier League. It had been a long time.
Yeah.
And now they're playing away from home. against Man City, I mean, this is a game where I kind of go, do I want to go goals? And the problem is the line is 3.5, which is high, but you can always do the little fun way of getting around that and go both teams to score over 2.5 and a goal scored in both halves. That's minus 135 on FanDuel right now. Now, the problem is I hate using a goal scored in both halves. I only do it if both teams to score and over 2.5 is not playable on its own. And that fucked me big time in the Champions League because I used my boost on the PSG Man City game. I did both teams to score over 2.5, Haaland to get 2 shots, and a goal scored in each half. Because without a goal scored in each half, it was minus 105, so I couldn't use the boost, which had to be even money or higher.
Yeah.
So I put that in because I was like, look, it might not happen, sure, but if we're going to get both teams to score over 2.5, we're probably getting a goal in both halves. Then the game finishes 4-2, having been 0-0 at halftime. PSG get a goal disallowed because Nuno Mendes' kneecap was like an inch offside. Yeah, sure, okay. That makes me happy. Not. So that was frustrating. And what made it even worse was I then saw people were just like, oh, I tailed it without the goal scored in both halves. And I was like, well, that wasn't, I didn't say this, but I was like, in my head, I was like, well, that wasn't even money. You couldn't use the boost on that. Turns out it fucking was. If you took it slightly later, it happened to land at plus 102 because they caught the odds just right. And they were like, oh, fuck it. I'll just boost that. And then, of course, that wins. So I was like, obviously, I'm happy. I'm never not going to be happy when people take my plays, they modify them, or they listen to this podcast or whatever, they listen to me rambling on YouTube, and they mix it up their own way and they cash off it. Brilliant. I'll never be mad at that. I'm happy you made money. But it was frustrating because, of course, when I went to shop it, you couldn't do it without the goal scored in both halves. And I mean, what are the odds you got a 6-goal game and not one of them happened in the first half? Apparently, it happened in this game. So that's just my luck. It was very frustrating. I was very annoyed. Very frustrated. That should be another 1.5 units from that boost right there. And instead it's a unit chalked off the board because of Nuno Mendes' kneecap. But this should be a good one. Obviously, you got to consider Cole Palmer coming back to play against Man City. That's always a fun one.
Yeah.
Previously, Man City have been good enough defensively that he's been neutralized fairly well.
I thought
this is a game where he should contribute.
Score too. What was it? Plus 155. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good.
I think that's really nice. His shots as well. I mean, his shots usually started like 3.5 or 4.5 at this point now. Gone are the days where there was significant value in Cole Palmer shots. But hey, you got to hope that he'll be motivated to play against his former club. Yeah. So we will see. Let's talk about Spurs against Leicester. This is a must-win for Spurs. I don't really have much to say about it betting-wise, other than the fact that I see loads of goals in this. And if Ange doesn't get a win for Spurs, then whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision, I think his job is well and truly under fire.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think he should be fired. And I
mean, if you don't win this game, though.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that.
Serious conversations.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I have my issues with him as a manager, but it's just so predictable if they fire him that a new manager will come in just as the squad gets fit again, and everyone will be like, oh my God, look, he's winning games. He's so much better than Ange. And it's just like, maybe this new manager wasn't forced to play Archie Gray as a centre-back.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. But he's also made some very strange decisions, which I don't understand. And, if he gets fired, then so be it. I think it's the wrong thing to do, but that would also make me very happy because I enjoy seeing Spurs as a club and Spurs fans in pain. Because they are a terrible little club.
I was thinking about this from a betting perspective, and I was like, shit, what do I bet? Do I just freaking... I don't know, dude. I have no idea.
Do you bite the over 3.5 at minus 120 or so?
The Spurs have to win. Maybe I go Spurs and over 2.5. But that's probably minus 150 if we're being honest. Let's see. Let's take a gander. Minus 125. I think I'm going to do that.
Okay. I like that. I could see that. They should. they should score 3, but you can't rule out Leicester scoring 2 or 3 themselves.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. An absurd thing to say about a club that is supposed to be a quote-unquote Big Six club. Yeah, all the way down in 15th, 16th, closer to the relegation zone than they are to a European spot. Haven't won a league title since what? The last time Spurs won the title was close to when Queen Victoria was alive in the present day. Oh yeah, that's a big club, all right. That's a big club. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear shit about it. Terrible club. But that's just coming from my completely unbiased Arsenal fan perspective. Absolutely no bias playing into that statement whatsoever. Brad. Whatsoever. But yeah, that's a game you have to win. Let's talk about the last game I want to talk about in the Premier League, unless you have one that you want to talk about. Fulham against Man U. We're finally getting the rematch of the first game of this season, which was a really interesting one. It was 0-0 for a long time, and then Man U scored. It came at Old Trafford, and everyone thought, maybe Man U are back. Maybe Ten Hag is the guy for the job. How far things have come since those days. This is a fascinating one. I like shots.
Shots is good. I went with goals. I went with the over.
Goals works for me too. I'm going to be looking at an Anthony Robinson dime. If that guy's assist gets listed above plus 500, yeah, give that to me. I love him so much. He is a brilliant defender, and he also gets forward and plays really well. I have a strong feeling that when Liverpool finally come calling for an Andy Robertson replacement at left back, which is sorely overdue, and Tsimikas is not it. It's going to be Kirkes from Bournemouth or Anthony Robinson from Fulham, and they will pay 50, 60 million for it, and that'll be cheap for them, but good money for the club that they signed them from.
Yeah.
He's such a solid defender and also can just create so much from his crosses. I mean, it helps when you have, massive head Jimenez in the middle of the box, but he's a good player, and I don't think Fulham are the favorites here. I think it's pretty close to. Yeah, I think they're both like plus 150, plus 160 to win the game, so it's pretty even. But if his assist is above plus 500, I am absolutely taking that.
You're locking and loading.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Same deal with Enzo. I'm going to go back to Enzo. Against Man City, would hope the odds are good, but I've been getting burnt. Not
I don't think Enzo's
because
playing.
He was an injury concern. He didn't play the last game. He might.
He's going to be back in this game. He's going to be back. Yeah, I do remember.
Well, his assist on FanDuel is plus 800. So
yeah, they haven't projected. As a return date for the 25th. So
nice. That sounds good. And would you look at that? Anthony Robinson is bang on the dot, plus 500 for an assist. That's also incredibly tempting.
Yeah.
Enzo had a brilliant run in like October, November time ever since he broke up with his wife. So, I made a load of money off that. So, fair enough. I have absolutely money in the bank when it comes to trusting Enzo for assists. But God, it's so frustrating seeing him have 8 chances created in a game. Consistently the most expected assist in the entire team. And none of it's working because Nicholas Jackson can't hit the fucking net.
Yeah.
Very frustrating, but it's just I don't know. It's like in basketball when you bet a guy's points, he takes up a bunch of shots and they don't go in, or you bet his assists and they have a ton of potential assists, but their teammates couldn't score. It's just yes, you're on the bad side of some variance there, and you would expect it to work out eventually, but also you kind of have to just factor in the fact that maybe their teammates are just not good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Nicholas Jackson not scoring. You would expect him to start scoring eventually. But also, he could just go a whole season and struggle the whole season. It's not like we haven't seen a guy like Darwin Núñez do that. It's not like we haven't seen Nicholas Jackson do that before.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm the fool. But also, if they continuously list Enzo assist at plus 500 or better, that's fine. I've only got to hit it once a month. I can hit that, and I'll be up. Yeah,
once every 7
exactly.
games. That's all you gotta do.
That's all you got to do. And I'm, after he got like 5 or 6 assists in like the course of a month last year, I am very much on the up when it comes to Enzo dimes. People might be frustrated about betting it recently, but I'm going to keep taking it as long as he keeps creating those chances. Someone's going to score them. You would hope.
Yeah.
As I say to convince myself. But yeah. We will see. Let's. Are there any other games in the Prem that you wanted to talk about?
No, it's good for me.
Alrighty, a couple of interesting games in La Liga. I'm not going to dwell on them too much, but Atletico Madrid are playing at home against Villarreal as the very solid, top of the top half matchup. Atletico Madrid are around -145 to -150 to win. They haven't lost at home in the league yet. I know they've had a couple of weird results recently. I think they just had a stupid. I think it was a Copa del Rey game or something like that, where Griezmann missed a last-minute penalty and they lost.
Yeah.
But that was really a deviation from the norm. They have been winning a ton of games recently. I mean, to the point where it looks like they're very much in this title race, which I didn't think I would say a few months ago. But Barcelona have fallen off, and Madrid look like they're on the up again, but they're still fairly inconsistent. So this at home feels like if you don't want to, and it's annoying because usually if it's like -150, I would say just pair it with over 1.5 or pair it with under 3.5.
Literally.
Problem is you don't know which Atletico Madrid's going to turn up. You could get the one that's going to grind out the 1-0 win, or with Julian Alvarez playing in the form of his life right now, they could win 3 or 4-1.
Yeah.
You just don't know. So maybe you pair it with somebody else that you think is going to win. But I mean, it's really hard to ignore. That's a really nice price on their money line.
I feel like you could pair it with the over because like I think Villarreal games always have like freaking goals in them, bro. Like always. At least it feels like that to me.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. And the other one I wanted to mention was Real Valladolid playing against Madrid. This is one of those games where I feel like you kind of have to ladder Madrid shots or their shots on target, because especially when Madrid are playing away from home and you expect a team to kind of like sit back and play in that like disgusting low block. This is the game. And if you look at the matchup historically, I mean, I've seen Madrid hang 30 shots and like put like 18 on target, like absurd numbers against this team before. So it's one of those games. It's a bit like the Brentford City matchup where I absolutely smashed that ladder last season. Got really close with this season because Man City put up like 21 shots. They only got 8 of them on target or something like that. And I was just like 10, 12, they like just hit their base. And I was like, of course, went riskier. And, 10 would have been nice. And it's just like, and then I bet their shots against PSG and they put 6 on target out of like 9 shots. It's just like, oh, wow, guys, now you want to be efficient and clinical? Oh, sure. Okay. But this is a game where I think Madrid shots just, the line's going to be rough, but if you can get plus 300-400 on them to take 25 shots, and then, their shots on target look really fun. So I'd think about that. But outside of that, I'm not sure how much I want to touch that game or anything else in the Liga for that matter.
Yeah, I haven't been doing pretty well. I haven't been doing very well at La Liga, so I've been very sparingly. I may take the corners in the Madrid game. We'll see. Haven't decided yet.
You're a corner sicko sometimes, Brad. You know that,
dude. Wait, I actually took some live corners today that weren't great. It's freaking stupid. Europe is stupid.
Yeah, fair enough. Some interesting games in the Bundesliga to talk about. Dortmund against Bremen. It's a mid-table clash, which I didn't think I would say about Dortmund, but they are in 10th. Werder Bremen are in 9th. And Dortmund finally fired Nuri Sahin. Wow, that was a long time coming. I don't think they have a single win in this year yet. I think they've lost like 4 or 5 in a row or something crazy. So this is when I don't know if they'll have a new manager by this weekend. I've seen some names bounced around. They were linked to Ten Hag for like a day, but I think that's been shut down. Yeah, the talks were held, but apparently it wasn't the path they're going to go through. Now they're pursuing someone else, someone whose name I don't recognize, and I probably should have had it written down, but I did not. So I'm not really sure who they're going to hire, or if he'll be hired by this game.
I don't think he'll be hired by this weekend, probably not.
Probably not. But you get Dortmund finally free from the rough shackles of Nuri Sahin. So
Thank
it's a game
God.
to at least watch out for. Mostly because these players are going to be playing for spots again, because now they have to impress. Even if the new manager hasn't arrived yet, whoever Dortmund are talking to will be watching this game. There's also a chance that Karim Adeyemi goes to Napoli as their special K replacement. That's a really interesting one that really popped out of nowhere in the last few days. I mean, Napoli have been linked with Garnacho and Karim Adeyemi. I think I would take Adeyemi, please.
1,000%. Wouldn't even think twice about it.
I mean, the fact that Man U are just like, hey, you want to offer us 40? Well, we want 60 or 70 million for Garnacho. Yeah. Meanwhile, Karim Adeyemi is available for 40. Yeah, I'm going to take that guy, please. This is not the time to be fucking around with guys like Garnacho. But we'll see. And then we have Leipzig against Leverkusen. Pretty sure I'm just going to take both teams to score over 2.5. And if that's not bettable, I will throw in a goal scored in each half, probably to my own detriment, but I'll throw that in there. And if that's not bettable, then I will just probably throw together a very small lotto, probably a Sesko goal, a Pender assist, and a Florian Wirtz to score an assist, and call it a day. It's a fun game. Game, but the odds will probably suck.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Serie A. Hey, Brad, this is where you come in. Napoli are playing Juventus this weekend. How's that one gonna go?
Draw.
Nice.
It's gonna be a draw. It's gonna be a draw in the dumbest way possible. I already know. Like we're probably gonna have Juventus is probably gonna have the lead, and then it's gonna be like in the 75th minute. Napoli are gonna score. Then games will conclude 1-1 or 2-2. Some stupid nonsense.
Beautiful. Will you bet it? That's the fun question.
Dude, I had them loaded at plus 250 against Club Rouge, and I took it off of our show sheet for the Bet US show, and I was like, what a freaking idiot. I'm going to bet it. I think I'm just going to bet them draw for the rest of the season.
That's fair enough.
I mean, they're drawing like every 5 out of every 6 games. Like, why would I not, you know?
Yeah. Fair enough. And then I feel like we never talk about Ligue 1, mostly because PSG very rarely play good teams. But fun fact, Nice-Marseille is a fun game, and you can get over 2.5 at like -130 to -135. I like the over in that game because both of these teams have goal scorers, and I think we see goals. That's the extent of my analysis for Ligue 1. Woohoo! All right, let's talk about Champions League. I know we touched upon, obviously, how big this week 8 is, how so many things can change, but we didn't really get a chance to go into the games. Let's talk about the games that could actually mean something and or could be really exciting. Barcelona against Atalanta. This is the fun one. Barcelona obviously in the top 8. Atalanta were there briefly. They're now slightly lower down. This is a game that screams goals. I mean, Barcelona's display against Benfica, if that doesn't tell you that there could be goals in this game, then I don't know what will. And Atalanta, I mean, historically, less so last season, more so 2 seasons before that, and definitely more so now, Atalanta are one of the both teams to score over 2.5 wagons in Europe. So this is a game that has goals for me.
Man, yeah, definitely got to be goals. Barca just can't defend right now. Like,
no, it's really,
you have to get it. Hold your nose and take it.
Yeah, it's very interesting how their style has developed, because I think most people would agree they look a lot better under Hansi Flick than they did under Xavi. But that league that season that Xavi won the league, they were the kings of grinding out the 1-0s.
Yeah.
So, very different style, but some might say more successful. But we haven't had a chance to properly evaluate Hansi Flick in charge, so we will see. But this is a fun game. This is also one where I'm just going to throw together a couple of goal lotto combos. Lewandowski goal, Yamal assist, Rafinha to score an assist, pair that with Lookman goal, CDK assist, or just flip it the other way around, or just go Lewandowski score an assist, Rafinha score an assist, Lookman score an assist, CDK to score an assist. If you can get plus 2,000 on that or higher, brilliant. Throw a tenth of a unit on it. That's fun. This game, both these teams could score 2 or 3 goals each. Just back their best contributors to contribute in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the games that actually could mean something for qualification. Dynamo Zagreb are playing at home against AC Milan. Dynamo Zagreb are, as I mentioned earlier, one of the 3 teams that are currently on the outside looking in that can still technically qualify. They are in 26th. Only the top 24 teams will make it through. They are on 8 points, and then Stuttgart, Sporting, PSG, and Benfica are on 10. So this is a big game for Zagreb, and they're playing at home against AC Milan, and AC Milan are in. They're in 6th place. They had a really good start, thank goodness, but they've been playing kind of weak recently. So this is very much a game where they could get a result, and they certainly have to.
Yeah, I think Milan get a result in here. I think Zagreb are a great team. You know, they're fun and gritty, but I think Milan are going to be disciplined under Caicedo. Caicedo's like turned them around defensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, their games have got a lot less like chaotic. I mean, like results-wise, they've been doing okay. You know what I mean? Like, right? I feel like I might have been a little harsh on them, but just like looking at the run of results, they've been getting wins, but just like you see silly results, like a 1-1 draw against Cagliari when Milan are playing at home. You should win that game. You know, you should win that game.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously losing 2-0 to Juventus isn't ideal. But you know, the games, you know, you're seeing a lot of 1-0 wins, 2-0, 2-1 wins, not really many super high scoring games. They should get the job done. For me, this is one where I think the fun will be laddering Dynamo Zagreb shots, because my guess is their shots line will be relatively low just because they're not a brilliant team. Obviously, we know the incentive is there for them to shoot because they need a win and they need goals. But that also hinges on how much possession they will actually have. But I think that's the way I'm going to approach it, especially in front of their own fans. And when I was watching the Arsenal game and watching those Dynamo Zagreb fans in the away corner, the Eastern European fans scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That could be an intimidating crowd.
Like bring like the head of a goat to the
oh
game.
Yeah. That's more of a Turkish thing, I think. Although they wouldn't bring you the head of the goat, they bring you the head of the fucking referee. Like in South, that's a South American thing. You see the ref like running around because the players are like running after them. A bunch of fans are in the crowd with knives. Yeah, you know, it's normal. That's normal around there. So I'm very glad that I wasn't at that Arsenal game, because I'd have been like, get me the fuck out of here after we beat them 3-0. They were throwing shit on the field, and I was just like, come on, guys. But I don't really blame the stewards for not getting involved. I wouldn't want to get involved either. Inter Milan against Monaco. This is an interesting one. Inter should win this. I just, it's a Inter in the top 8, and Monaco is sort of like just on the outside. They're in 10th. I really think Monaco are going to give it their all here. So again, I think Monaco shots could be fun, but it's
just
a weird game.
Monaco. I mean, Inter just like a team. Inter Milan are just a team like very hard to give it your all against, right? Like, because they just like suffocate you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But that should be an interesting one. In hindsight, now I'm not really sure why I put it on the list, because I have very little to say about it. So, that's on me. But this game, I have a lot to talk about. Well, I say a lot. We're an hour and 40 minutes in. I don't have a lot to talk about. Man City against Club Brugge. Man City have to win. Man City are currently out of the Champions League.
You're on an unbeaten streak too. Oh
yeah, Bruges look great now. Now you got to take that with a pinch of salt, because they play in a fucking layup domestic league, but they're doing well in the Champions League as well. Yeah. So you can't write that off. But Man City have to win this. I mean, have to win this. And I mean, I think, and the sad thing is, I think they do win this. But if they don't win this game, there's a good chance they don't play knockout Champions League football until 2027, because they will get knocked out of this one. They might not get top 4 for this season, so they won't play in 25-26, at which point they would then have to qualify again the next season, and then they wouldn't play until the 26-27. So if they don't get here, that could be it for the next 2 years. Out of the Champions League knockouts, you won't see them.
Yep.
And do you know what? Nothing would bring me more joy. But they are probably going to win this game.
They're probably going to win.
That being said, both teams to score is around even money. I really don't see how you can not take that, given how Man City can't defend anything right now.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I've put up a little Man City blocker. I haven't been betting their games. They've been driving me nuts.
Well, their games have been full of goals because they keep
have
scoring. They keep scoring and then they keep going back.
2.5 in the PSG game. I just couldn't bring myself to put any money on that game. Like, I didn't put a single penny on that game.
Fair enough. I just boosted my boost play, and we've already talked about how frustrating that one went. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I want to see how they play against Chelsea first and foremost, but I don't know if they keep a clean sheet against Club Brugge.
Yeah.
We'll see. Last game I want to talk about, Stuttgart against PSG. This is really interesting because both these teams are right on the edge. Stuttgart are in 24th, the lowest possible qualification spot, and PSG are in 22nd. Now, this is really interesting because a draw helps both of these teams significantly. If they draw, they're both in unless Dynamo Zagreb, I believe they would have to beat AC Milan by 7 goals or something like that.
So something that's not happening.
Something that is probably not happening. So both this is what, they play these games at the same time because they don't want anyone to have an advantage in the situation. But PSG and Stuttgart, a draw is fine. But you just know that's not going to how they play it, because this is what's brilliant about this format. The incentive is there for seeding to get as high as you can. So this, I think, could be a really fun one because, of course, as soon as one team scores, the team that is losing is going to be like, shit, I might not. Obviously, it depends on how Zagreb are playing, how City are playing. I'd say more concerningly, how City are playing, because I think all those teams are going to assume that City are going to win that game. You have to operate under the assumption that Man City are beating Bruges at home, which they should do if they're a serious club. So that would then put City on 11 points, which puts Benfica, PSG, Sporting, and Stuttgart in potential jeopardy, depending on how everything else shakes out. Especially Stuttgart. So that's going to be a really fun game. If we get a nice early goal in that game, I think that game will be a lot of fun. I think that's one that you look at both teams to score over 2.5 again. But we'll see. Brad, any other Champions League games that you want to talk about?
No, sir. We covered them.
Brilliant. That was a good episode. Again, we famously never run over. We never run over at all. But I think that's a good place to wrap up. Really looking forward to this final week of Champions League. Looking forward to this final week of the January transfer window. And this weekend is going to be a lot of fun. Loads of really interesting games to bet on and loads of interesting games to watch. We're also a month away from the MLS restarting, and I'm going to be really happy when that finally gets back around. Brad, anything you want to plug before we say goodbye?
Yeah, we're back, baby. The Premier League power rankings, betting power rankings, will be released Friday afternoon. I actually I'm really excited because when obviously I've already started them because they take a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a good practice. I hate that I didn't have a ton of time to do it, but before being busy. But now we are back, baby.
Awesome. I love those power rankings. Every time you say you're going to plug something, you don't see the power rankings. I'm just like, hey, Brad, what about the power rankings? We have power rankings this week. Nice. Glad. I love, me. I love some power rankings.
Hell yeah.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at FIFA Brit. And if you haven't signed up for Gold Boys already, it's a brilliant time to sign up. You guys can sign up at goldboys.com. And of course, thank you very much to the Gold Boys Network for continuing to sponsor this podcast and let us chat and yap as much shit as we possibly can every single week. Brad, it's been lovely to see you. Really looking forward to this weekend. I think we've got a lot of fun games going on. And to everyone listening at home, if you haven't followed this podcast, drop us a follow wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you stream your podcasts. And if you're feeling particularly generous, a little 5-star review would go a long way. So if you like what you're listening to, you made some money off our picks, by all means, maybe pay it back a little bit and give us a nice 5-star review on the podcast. We love you all very much. Thank you guys for listening. Best of luck with all of your bets this weekend. And me and Brad will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.